Hi everyone, welcome to New Media AGD 459. Project number 2, basically doing experimental illustration using open source software and Illustrator, and for preparation for use for DIY robot drawing machines like the Axidraw 3. We're going to do 3 different techniques that I've developed over the last year and a half for various types of plotters. The first one is going to be the most basic. The one I'm going to do is what I call the line and stipple. In this case, we're going to use 3 programs. We're going to use Photoshop. We're going to use Stipple Generator, which is a open source stippling program that was written using Java and the processing integrated development environment. And then we're going to take both of these, we're going to take the outputs of both of these, bring these into Illustrator, and then we're going to go and make these into a piece of work that then we send out to an Axidraw 3 plotter. So first of all, I've taken here a proposed piece of architecture for Abu Dhabi. I forget the name of it, but I thought it was really interesting. So let me talk about what the process is. Is that what we want to do is that we want to try to get Illustrator and Stipplegen to try to put together and try to look at the edges and the tonal values and everything so that we can get a good range of stippling and get really nice lines out of the auto trace in Illustrator so that we can then send these to the Axidraw 3. By the way, if you're not aware, this is the only time that I am going to tell you to use the auto trace in Illustrator. But the thing is that there's various ways that I use it that are pretty specific to this, and you know, I don't go too crazy with it because of the fact that if I was use certain settings, I'd wind up with way too many lines that it'd just take way too long, and it would really look like a really look terrible. So I'm using these techniques in very, very specific ways. So let's get started, okay? In this case, what we're going to wind up doing is that we're going to take and separate this into you know, basically 2 images. One we're going to use in the stipple generator, and then one we're going to use in the in Illustrator. So first of all, the one thing that is at the base of all of this that we need to understand, that the base image that we use for everything, they're all grayscale. So even when we start going and working with color, we're going to be pulling out sections of the images, and we're going to be making them into grayscale pieces, which then will then go out to the robot with a pen, and then the pen will retranslate that into color. So let's see what we can do with this in the beginning. Let's go over here in Photoshop, and the first thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to try an auto contrast. That's interesting. And then I'm going to go here and I'm going to desaturate the image. This looks kind of interesting. So there are a couple choices that I'm confronted with, that I'm presented with immediately. Do I want the sky in this? I don't think that I do really. So I'm going to take my magic wand. And you'll ask why? Because I think there's just, because what I want to do is I want to concentrate primarily on the architecture and not so much on the sky. And I think this will be just fine. I'm having some interesting times here getting the right setting to get this background out. Let me see if I can get what I need out of here. And maybe I can just do this with a select subject. If not, don't worry about it. I may just you know what? That's not bad. What I'll do is that I'll take this and then I'll just add I'll just do a quick lasso in on some of these parts here, and I'll do a command invert. Oops. Guess what? Oh, that's kind of interesting. Where did that go? Okay. Okay, I switched over here. Let me add that back in. I'll take that back out. Okay. So we can work on this a little bit here in just a minute. I'll see if I can take the rest of this out using like a 24 pixel tolerance. It's not too bad actually. Oops, I don't want to do that. Okay, so we sort of have something here that we can work with at least. So what I want to do is I want to try to get this close to black and white as possible. This is super important for this because this will give Illustrator and Stipplegen to something to work with. I use the legacy setting because of the fact that it clips things a lot more. And to be perfectly honest, this is much more into what I really want to try to get done with this is that it may look exaggerated, and it is, but that's the idea. Okay, this looks okay. I think I'm going to wind up going and save this as, I'm just going to call this, I'll save it as a PNG, which is going to be pretty important. I'll call it Abu Dhabi. So, I'll call it Abu Dhabi 2. Some important points. Number one, you want to have this be in RGB mode because in CMYK mode, stipple generator gets really confused. And then PNG and JPEG are usually the things that work best. So really, this is the Photoshop side of this particular project, of this particular technique. So let's go over to Illustrator where I have an A3 document landscape already set up for us. And let's go and just do a place of the document. Here's Abu Dhabi 2. And let me take my hand tool, bring this into the center. Actually, if I wanted to, I could wind up doing, I could wind up centering it, but let's see if that's fine. Okay, so you can see here that we're about to do image trace, right? So you can see here that we have all of these different settings between technical drawing, sketch start, shades of gray, blah, 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 blah. We might even wind up using 3 colors, but the thing is that we're going to be fooling Illustrator to be using 3 colors even though we're using grayscale. So, you know, it doesn't matter. We're just really looking at the idea of what's changing as opposed to whether it's a color or not. So we're going to be saying like light, you know, black, gray, and white. We're going to say the 3 colors for the. But let me show you what happens with some of these settings, okay? And let me just show you why I don't use them a lot of the time. Here's line art. Sometimes these work great, okay? And I encourage you to play with these a lot. You might want to take some of these and actually that's really good. Okay, let me. Wow, you know what? Actually, I'm going to keep this. So, sketch start. That's interesting. So, what do we do with this after this? How do we? The thing is that the robot has to have outlines. It doesn't like the solid shape stuff, but actually, that's actually a really cool. That's actually a really cool shape. What we want to do is that we want to do expanded on group. Expand on group, expand on group, expand on group. Okay. And I'll expand it. And the reason why I do this a couple times because sometimes when you have something traced, you'll sometimes still have groups within groups within groups, and you want to just get rid of that hierarchy completely. Okay, so let's recap just for a moment. Let's just review for a moment. We have taken a file in Photoshop, taken it to almost black and white, brought it into Illustrator, put a tracing solution on it, in this case sketch start. I usually like to do 3 color, but this actually turned out amazingly well. Now, we have this piece of artwork, but we need to reduce it to line art. At this point, it has fills. We have to get rid of these fills. So you can see here, you got the fill color, and of course, we just want to do this to nothing, right? So that's great. But then, you can see there's a little problem that we don't have anything else happening here. So we need to turn that to black. And I'm going to take the stroke up to about 2 points. Look at that. That's pretty awesome. Actually, I'll take it back down to 1 point stroke. Really, to tell you the truth, it doesn't matter for one reason. Because of the fact that we're going to send this out to the robot, and it isn't a ink printer. So what you wind up doing is that you just wind up taking a pen and have it do whatever you want. This could be gold, this could be green, this could be blue, this could be whatever you want. So, okay. Before I do anything else, I'm going to make a second layer. And I'm going to rename this layer, I'm going to say building. And I'm going to call this color stipple. So now the thing that we're going to do now is we're going to go into stipple generator. We're going to bring in this image, play with it a bit, and then we're going to create a stippling solution as an SVG outline file, which will bring in put this over this, color it, and then save it off, and then this will be your first assignment. So let's go over here and load this up. Okay, here's Abu Dhabi 2. Look at that. So if we want to get technical, this is what they call a Voronoi web stipple generator. That's very well and good. That's great. But the thing is that it just does certain things for us. So here, the stipples don't look that great. So what we want to do is that we want to go down here, and just because of the fact that it takes some time to generate the stipples, I like to play with the minimum dot size and the dot size range first, so I can just get an idea of what's going on. And I took the minimum dot size down to 1 point. And actually, to tell you the truth, I've never done this. I usually don't go much more than about 5 on a dot size range, but let's see what happens here. So I'm at about my usual, which is about 1 to about 4. I just want to just take it all the way up and just see what happens here. Wow, that's crazy. Okay, anyway. I'll take it back down to about 4. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the stipples up, and I'll take it up to about maybe 5,000. Let's see what happens. And this will take, on some of your machines, it'll take a couple minutes. You know, that's just something we have to deal with. But the thing is it's really cool that we're able to do this. And as I said, it's still calculating. You can see here you've got the cells worked out. That's not too bad. Let me take this up to maybe about 7,000. See if I can do this. And really don't go much higher than about this. And then let's see how this calculates. So I wonder what color you'd wind up doing. I think in this case I'm either going to do a blue or a green. Oh, wait a second. You know, the other thing that I was assigning is I was assigning a motif. Actually, guess what? I'm going to go back and we're just going to add that in. It's not a problem. So let's get this let's get this all set up, and then let's add the motif, shall we? As I said, it's taking a little bit, and probably on some of your older machines, it's going to take a while. So just be kind of careful when you're working with this program. There it is. Okay, that's great. So now what we can do is we can save the stipple file as an SVG format. And I'm going to say this is Abu Dhabi stipple. And I'll save it here. And it might take a second or two, but I'll just put that in the background. So we've got the building, we'll do the color stipple, and then actually I'm also going to put in a third layer, put down here at the bottom, and I'm going to call this motif. So, okay. The rest of this is the putting on the stipple is pretty easy. It's just an outline file. We just place it, and and it just comes in and actually usually pretty good at playing with dimensions. And look at that. That's pretty cool. I'll just nudge it into place with arrow keys. So at this point, I just have it selected and it's all black. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a, I'll give it a kind of a cyan stroke. And look at what we have. That's gorgeous. Okay. So, putting on a motif. Shouldn't be too bad. Let's see here. Let's go, let's just say Islamic geometry. So this should be fairly easy. Actually, one thing I might even be able to do, no, actually, I need to do this in Photoshop. Actually, this is really cool. Let's just use this, shall we? Okay. Let's go back here over to Photoshop. Let's put this in a background layer. And just transform it up so it's as big as we need it. We don't even need to care whether it stays on the page or not. Okay. This is going to be a little bit rough, but that's okay. Because we're not going to be looking at pixels. We're looking at how this translates. So one of the reasons why I knocked out the sky, because the sky is going to be the motif, right? So let's go back here to the architecture layer and select that, and then let's just copy, paste. Let's see what this looks like. Oh, wait a second. Sorry. I was on the wrong layer for that. Okay. See? There we go. And then all I need to do is just desaturate this. And actually what I'm going to do is that I'm gonna do something advanced. I'm gonna flatten this, because you can undo it. And I'm just going to, well, you know what? I'm gonna do this the right way, because I could just copy and paste it. But what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to do this properly and do this Abu Dhabi 3. Okay. Now let's go back here down onto the motif. Let's go and place Abu Dhabi 3. And okay, you can see this is a little off. And it's pretty close. But you can see what's already happening here, right? And if we're doing this artistically, we don't even have to really worry about this being completely registered, but Okay, this is what I'm going to do. So I've got motif taken care of. And then what I'm going to do is that I'm going to trace just like we did before. Let's see what happens with sketch art. And not as good as I want. Let's try black and white logo. Not as good as I want. Let's go to 3 colors. Maybe. Okay. So let's expand this. And then let's get rid of the fill. Let's make it a black stroke. And then actually, let's not make it a black stroke. Let's make it a let's see here. Just for the moment, what's that? I'm being a little bit of a graphic design nerd here. Okay, I'll do this purple. And then let's see what we have. And not quite what I want. Let me lock these two. And then I'll just select this whole thing. And then let's just play. That could be really kind of fun. All right, that red, that maroon, I like. So this is basically the kind of thing that you're going to give me. You're going to have a motif in the background. You've got your foreground here, and then you just send this to me. Make sure everything is on its own layer. And guess what? What I'll do is that I'll end this tutorial here. I'm going to save this. I'll put this worked example up online, and then I'll get this on YouTube, and I'll send this over to you now. And hopefully, you can get started on your first project and get started on your first project. We'll meet on Thursday and see how you do. Anyway, I hope you're excited about this as much as I am, and I hope you have fun with this. And then with the next ones, they get more complex and more interesting, and I hope we'll have a lot of fun with this. So, okay. See you later, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.